My name is Scott Challoner, and you are listening to the Leaders Council podcast for the people who run the country and the people who keep the country running. You join us on a very bleak morning here in the capital, but I'm delighted to say that joining me on the show to hopefully add some warmth and brightness to affairs in these very strange times is Zofia Ludwig, the founding director of Experts in Mind, a company providing mental health expertise for legal proceedings based in East Sussex. Zofia, a very warm welcome to yourself this morning, and by all means, thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure having you.
Oh, lovely to speak to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be talking about something that's been dominating the headlines in recent weeks today, and that is, of course, the incursion by Russia on Ukraine. Now, your company, of course, Experts in Mind, you've actually put out an appeal, haven't you, for essential items donations, which will be sent to Poland to help displaced Ukrainians who've been fleeing that conflict. So would you like initially, Zofia, just to sort of tell us a little bit more about that and how that's working practically? Because people can actually go to your offices and drop off these items when they're donating them, can't they?
Yes, that's correct. The whole team has been really moved by what's going on. And we wanted to actively try and do something more practical, perhaps, than sending money. And we wanted to do something ourselves. And we've got a big office building with some empty space at the minute. So we thought it would be the ideal place to try and fill it with donations from people. And we've been researching what the essential items are, and we've been circulating that locally. We've been in contact with some schools via Facebook groups. To some local businesses, and it's been growing over the last few weeks. We've been running it for about 3 weeks now, and the room that we're using is starting to fill up, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I suppose it's important to stress as well for anybody tuning into this that any items donated need to be they need to be new, they need to be unopened, don't they? So that they're actually appropriate to send out to Poland. And any donations as well, they can be deposited at your office, and that's at High Weald House, Glover's End, Bexhill-on-Sea, Sussex, TN395ES. I think I'm right in saying, aren't I?
Yes, you are. It's just on they've built a new link road actually between Hastings and Bexhill, and it's a huge building on that road, so you can't miss us.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So anybody tuning into this that obviously is willing to donate and feels that you can do something, obviously please do bear that in mind. I will reiterate that information at the end of the show again. But importantly as well, Zofia, it's important to sort of touch on the fact that this appeal holds a lot of sort of personal significance for you, doesn't it? Because your own father was actually born in Ukraine, and he sort of suffered from being displaced. I think it was during the Second World War, didn't he? So has that really had an impact on you and made you really feel that, you know, now that this war has broken out in Ukraine, you just felt you really needed to do something?
Yes, it really did. It's you're completely right. My father was born in 1920 it was then Lvov, which was part of Poland, which is now Lviv of the Ukraine, which has been on the news so much recently. But his father was the director of a large oil refinery just outside Lvov, and it was bombed at the start of the Second World War. And my father actually was at medical school, and he was asked to rush home, and they collected a suitcase of what they could with his mum and his sister and his dad, and they just put it in their car and they drove, and they lived in the woods for several weeks. But his story, obviously when I was younger and your dad tells you war stories, goes over your head a bit. But now I've got older, luckily he did tapes of his life and recorded his story, which now my sisters and I listen to a lot, and it really resonates. The fact that you know, they had a great life. It was a big refinery, a big house, and then as he was coming home over the hills, because it's near the Carpathian Mountains, he talks of being able just to see it burning and the flames leaping into the air, and, you know, watching your life basically, or your possessions disappear. So to have to just grab what you can and go and live in woodland until after that he actually was taken to a labour camp in Siberia. But he made such he achieved so much in his life despite that start, and it was by certain events, people helping him or things that happened to happen. So I thought, well, if we can actively do something, having heard how that is to live in that situation and how frightening it is, and disorientating. And so if we can do something to help those people, even in this small way, then absolutely, I want to do as much as I can.
It's frightening, isn't it, that this is actually happening, that same story that your father lived through, that is happening in 21st century Europe. And you've mentioned there how, you know, he was helped and he's had an incredible story and an incredible life as a result of that. And so helping, sort of offering those same helping hands out to those people that are living through that reality now, you know, that can help them as well, can't it? It can make a huge difference to their lives, and it can help them sort of get their lives back on track, get them to safety, and really sort of make something of their lives despite the conflict and the upheaval that they've had to go through in recent weeks.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's all they've got to rely on, really, is the helping hands of other people. I still have quite a lot of family in Poland, and I know that the Polish have just been so good and welcome them immediately, no questions asked, and are just doing what they can. But that's obviously a lot of pressure on them. And I also notice now it's kind of going further and further down the list in the news, and there are a lot of stories about the actual bombing and where it's taking place, but not so much about the people who are living with nothing. I mean, these people would have built up businesses, they would have been at school, they would have had to have prescriptions, they would have, you know, just everyday life that we take for granted, and all of a sudden you have access to nothing. So the fact that we're even collecting such things as toothbrushes and toothpaste and deodorants that you just can't imagine, you know, not having access to. We have probably 50 shops around us at any time in England to be able to go and get that. And so it's just really to put yourself in that position where you do have nothing. And I know when my father eventually got out of the Labour camp and was making his way to England, he actually had a pair of leather boots, and he always said to me, it's so important you have a good pair of boots, and he actually managed to sell those to get a ticket to come to England on a boat and then join the Polish Air Force here. So it's just, with little you can do a lot, or it can make the difference. So I think it's very important that people do keep in mind how all these people are living or trying to live, and even with their pets, the pictures of people that don't want to leave their dogs and cats, as you wouldn't, I certainly wouldn't. So we've been, it's been very emotional in the office, all the donations we've had of dog and cat food and even rabbit food, actually. So not forgetting the littler ones.
Yeah, I think it's so important, isn't it, that we're seeing a lot in the news about what's actually happening in the war, where it's being bombed. But for those that have actually got away from the conflict, where are they now? That is that missing headline. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And given that obviously that donation room is really starting to fill up healthily now, I suppose the next thing for you is to sort of really get those items on the way to those people that need it most, and that's going to be that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to build it up a bit more, and we had a team meeting last week to try and work out a plan to get the word out even more. I've actually been speaking to a few members of Sussex Police. My dad, referring back to him, he came over here and qualified as a doctor, and he was a police surgeon in East Sussex for 40 years. So I've been speaking to them because a lot of the old school officers knew him, and they are very keen to get involved. So I've got a meeting with one of the officers on Friday. So hopefully if we can build up, we'd ideally like to get a lorry load of donations to transport rather than a van or two. So we're being ambitious, and we're going to be collecting until the 22nd of April. So I'm hoping that we can double or triple what we've got so far.
Yep, so plenty of time yet to get those items out there. And again, for anybody tuning in who is in the East Sussex area and you do feel you can help, you can deposit items at Unit G03, High Wheeled House, Glover's End, Bexhill on Sea, East Sussex, postcode TN395ES. And Zofia, I'm right in saying as well that you can drop off those items anytime between sort of 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock from Monday to Friday, is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. If that's not a good time, we can always come and collect. All the team are willing to drive out to wherever the person who wants to donate may be, if they're in the local area, or we can make a plan that someone's here if it needs to be outside work hours. So we're being flexible with that as well.
Absolutely amazing, and incredible to everybody, of course, who's donated to this appeal so far. And also, I think a big thank you should go in advance to any others tuning in that might pay Expert in Mind a visit in the near future to help out even more. Zofia, I've got to say, thank you ever so much for joining us on the show today to talk about this appeal and talk about your father's story. It's incredibly compelling, and I do hope that as of sort of April the 22nd, when all of that has been sort of deposited and you've got all those items ready to go, that you've got a really good supply there to take out and make a real difference.
Absolutely. I hope we do too. And also it might be worth mentioning, actually, if you wouldn't mind, if anybody who has a company that supplies boxes, moving boxes, if they would like to donate some boxes to us, that would be great, so that we can pack everything up so that it's uniformed and fits nicely in the transport. So we would appeal for that as well, if possible.
Absolutely. So to anybody again tuning in that might feel that you can help, and I'm sure there are plenty of us, do please get in touch with Expert in Mind in East Sussex. What would be the best contact number, Zofia, for them to get in touch with you?
It would be 01424 444 130.
Absolutely fantastic. And you can also get Expert in Mind via email at office@expertinmind.co.uk. Zofia, once again, thank you so much for joining us, and do take care and stay safe with all still going on, and I wish you the best of luck with the appeal.
Thank you, and to you too. Thank you for your time.
It was a real pleasure welcoming Zofia Ludwig from Expert in Mind onto today's programme, and I do hope that everybody tuning in thoroughly enjoyed the interview today. And I would just like to reiterate for a third time on the programme that anybody wishing to donate to the appeal for Ukraine being put out by Expert in Mind can deposit items at Unit G03, High Weald House, Glover's End, Bexhill-on-Sea, East Sussex, TN395ES. If you would like further information, you can also contact Expert in Mind directly by phone on 01424 444 130, or via email at office@expertinmind.co.uk. Once more, to all of our regular listeners, please do help if you can. Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders Council podcast with your host, Scott Challoner. Take care and goodbye, and we'll see you all again very soon.